Hope I'll be up to the side or on like that podium. I'm up at a dais all day long, all the time, these meetings for 8 hours. Listen, I want to say right up front, I am very, very proud to be the mayor of Costa Mesa. Throughout the county and throughout the state, people know about Costa Mesa. They know what we're doing here in Costa Mesa. And you get thumbs up. You get all sorts of people out there just say, keep on going, do what you have to do. And they don't even know the details of it. What's amazing about the American public is they kind of know they have an indicator of like when things are correct or not correct. And the old line of you can fool some of the people some of the time and all the people some of the time and some people all the time, whatever. You can't fool all the people all the time. It's true, because after a certain while they go, something's just not right here. And when you ask questions and they don't get answered properly, you go, something's wrong, and why is that? And that's one of the things I think that this council has brought, is that we ask extremely tough questions, and we don't do it, by the way, at city council meetings to embarrass staff or to embarrass people. That doesn't move anything forward. We do it privately. We ask staff. We work through issues. We try to find out where our money's being spent, how it's being done a certain way. If you have any idea of what's happened in the last 3 years, isn't necessarily what's happened on Tuesday night at the city council meeting. It's what happens with the cultural change that this council has been pushing through. And that's the biggest reason that we've done things differently. One of the secret weapons we have in our city, and you all know him, is Mayor Pro Tem Steve Mensinger. I mean, Steve's a big guy. He's tall. He's good looking. And he has a way of presence about him. I mean, Steve just gets things done. And he worked in a company where he had to. He started in the mailroom and ended up being the president of the company. And he's had 800 and 1,000 employees under him. I never have. Most of us haven't had that large of an organization. And so one of our little secret weapons is Steve understands how it is to change cultures. And so what we're doing in Costa Mesa is we're changing the culture of the city and the employees in the city in a very positive way. Because the reality of it is, if you go employee to employee to employee, we've got great employees. They don't hire anybody in Costa Mesa. They don't have to. We have thousands of applications. We get phenomenal people who come there. And Steve and the council majority, this is an interesting thing too, and the council majority, we say that now because it seems to be a 3-2 vote. The city's been run for 60 years by a council majority, but somehow we seem to call it that. But what we've done is we've looked at it and said, well, how do these things work? What's better? What's better for the city? What's better for the residents? What's better for the people that come and go here? And how can we make our employees serve those people in such a way that's positive for everyone? And I think that's what's coming across, and that's what's happening there. And that's why so many good things have been done. I'm not going to go through all the details of what we've changed in the last 3 years. I'll just go through a couple of them to give you some magnitude of some ideas, and I'll touch on some of the things that Lee talked about. You look at a city and you say, what is the job of the city? What really is our job? Is our job to make sure we have nice parks and nice streets and have a good police department and a good fire department? Is our job to be an employment agency? What is our job? Is our job to go ahead and make sure that our equipment is kept up well? Is it make sure that our sewer system and our flood control system works well, so that houses don't get flooded? Think about it. On the west side, we just did a whole project. I can't tell you how much it cost, but we had an area on the west side where homes flooded whenever it rained too much. Now think about that. You live in a city, and you have a part of your town that the homes flood. Can you imagine living in a house and the water comes in the carpet? And when you'd say, why don't we fix that? Well, that costs a lot of money. Well, I know it costs a lot of money. We got to fix it. It doesn't matter what it costs. You can't be in a city where water's coming in. Now, do you think that neighborhood that water comes in has a lot of homeowners living there? Of course not. He has a lot of people that own homes. But honey, the second time the water comes in, honey, we're moving out of here. And then they own the home and they rent it out, and the area becomes a higher percentage of rentals than it does homeowners. Is that good for the city? No. That's not good for the city. So what do? We spent whatever the dollar figure was to get that fixed and taken care of. The other thing this council's done and pushed extremely hard is to say, our job is to take your tax dollars, your hard-earned tax dollars, and put it into capital improvements. Okay, capital improvements is concrete and pipes and steel and the things that last, the things that have 20, 30, 40, 50-year lives. Our job is not to give it to somebody, to give them more money or more pay, and have them get in their car and drive home to South County. That's not what our job is. Our job is to take care of those things. Now, again, we have phenomenal employees. They need to be paid well. They are paid well. They've got packages you can't believe. Unbelievable packages. 12 holidays, 12 sick days. If you don't use them, you can cash them out later. 3 to 5 weeks of vacation. I mean, you start going through what we have, it's phenomenal. What's interesting is to see how the employees are starting to react, where they just want to say, you know what, thank you very much. I appreciate my job. I appreciate the fact that Costa Mesa hired me. For most people in the city, that's all they wanted to hear. You got a great job. Just appreciate it. Don't complain. You've got 12 sick days. You've got all this stuff. You never have to worry about your pension for the rest of your life. Everything is covered as long as you don't screw up at this job. Just say thank you. And then when we need you to do things or change things or try to save money in the city, work with us to do that. And that's what we're trying to change here in the city. The dollars put towards capital improvements. We spent $40 million in the last 3 years, and we have replaced 25% of the streets in the city. Now, that's at a magnitude that's never happened before in our city and most other cities around. I've never seen it done. That we not only spend our gas tax money and what's called the half-cent sales tax, Measure M money, we voted for that half-cent sales tax. We actually spend general funds. Now, why do we do that? In other cities, we'll just spend, just the gas tax. We found out we can't keep up our roads just spending the gas tax and the Measure M. We need to spend general fund money. And we also need to be able to go out there and have matching dollars to get grants. So what's happened in the last several years, and I hear people that are always complaining to the council that it has nothing to do with you. This is just money and planned, and it was always in place, and you guys aren't really doing anything. Really? Then why is it the 4 years before we didn't do that? Why is it the 8 years before we didn't do that much? Why is it the 12 years before we didn't spend those kind of dollars? Because it's the vision and it's the direction the leadership in the city says they want to go. We've got phenomenal staff in our public works department, and you let these people let them go wild as far as going for grants, going for projects, seeing if they get things done, and you say, if you get that, we'll match the money, they go work. If you say to your staff, hey, we're looking for some money for some roads, see if you can find some, we're not sure we're going to match that money when you go make that grant application, they don't work too hard. Because they know they're going to be embarrassed with the county who says, oh, by the way, we got the money for that new road work you want done. Oh, the city council won't give me matching money. That's what we had here. Now, when people talk about how was it before, and we look at this race coming up, I think what Lee talked about earlier, and he's a very polite man, and he comes from that era that's very polite. The reality of it is, what did we have before? How was it before? Now, was there more turmoil now than then? Yes, because we had change. So there's no doubt about it that people were upset. Why were they upset? Is because the money they were getting, the perks they were getting, we said no to. And they're upset. I understand that. That's human nature. But the previous council, before I got on council, blew through $35 million of reserves. $35 million. Well, the economy went down. Really? Maybe the pay increases you gave the previous years, massive pay increases that you gave the previous years had something to do with it. Maybe the pension giveaway that you had something to do with it. Maybe when the economy went down and the council person who was a previous council person who's running again said, I refuse to lay off one employee. I will not lay off one employee. Really? Is your job to be an employment agency in this city? Or is your job to run the city for the citizens? Now, is it horrible having to lay off somebody? Yes. Does anybody want to do it? No. But that's what adults do. You have to work and and solve the problem the best that you can. What did that council do? They gave away so much money to get people to retire early and said somehow we would save money. We didn't save any money. We had 70 employees get golden parachutes to leave 2 years early. We basically said, here's 2 years extra on your pension. You can leave 2 years early, and we're going to save money. Well, guess what happens? We have an account with CalPERS. CalPERS is our public employee pension system. And those employees weren't supposed to retire 2 years early, were they, right? When they do the calculations, they figure when they estimate people will retire. And so all of a sudden, these people all retire. They get their 2 years extra. They're going out at 70, 75% of pay as a regular employee. If you're a police or fire, you're at 90% of pay 2 years early. So all those people do is they just jump over the fence and they go to CalPERS, right? CalPERS said, hey, we didn't expect these people. So what happens? $25 million unfunded liability instantaneously. But hey, we didn't have to pay for it this year. We can pass it on to future generations. Isn't that great? Do we save any money by giving people 2 years to leave early? I mean, is this ridiculous? If a person's making 90% of pay, would you rather them just keep on working? Because when they jump off at 90% of pay and we got to replace them with somebody else, there's been no money saved. So these are the things that we're working on and we're working to solve. We do, as it was mentioned earlier, a pension committee. The pension committee was really to put together to kind of get all the frequently asked questions actually answered properly. I see Jeff Arthur in the back of the room here. Jeff's the chairman of the pension committee. I don't know of any 10 people anywhere in the state of California that understands the pension system better than these 10 people. They drilled through. What they did is they questioned everything. Well, what happens if you retire a certain amount of years and then does it go up and is it all these questions? And people would go, well, logically, this is what it is. We don't care about the logic. We want to know the facts. One of the most important things they just said was, and I see Tim Sussler here also, having lawyers on these committees. What does Tim say? Can we see the contract? What's the contract with CalPERS? What does it say? Now, you don't want to read this contract. Oh, it's scary. A contract that is literally hundreds of millions of dollars. We're $250 million unfunded. And this contract isn't a half a dozen pages. And it basically has one paragraph in there. And the paragraph, I'm going to just give you an idea what it says. It basically says that the board of CalPERS will figure it out, don't worry. We'll raise the rates, we'll lower the rates, we'll do whatever we have to do, don't worry. You entrust us to give what you've said. So again, the city council approves what the pension plan is. CalPERS doesn't do that. And CalPERS invests that money and just pays out what you told them to do. That's all they do. Now, once you drill into it, you find that the CalPERS is run by the public employee unions and run by the Democrat side of the aisle. And those unions want to have whatever they want to have. So CalPERS is not, it's not Aetna, okay? It's not the Fireman's Fund. CalPERS is a political organization that handles billions and billions of dollars. And once you understand it's a political organization, everything makes sense. Until you understand that, you think, why would they vote for that? That doesn't make any sense. Because they don't care. What they care about is keeping the system going as long as they can to figure out what future legislature and what future governor and what future public is going to pay for these much, much higher taxes to fill this hole. Okay, so that's what they're looking toward. Just how do we push it off, push it off, push it off. So the thing that this council has done over time, and I talked about the things that Steve brought in, we had a whole mess in our city. Nobody ever talked about it. You don't hear it in the papers, about workman's comp cases. When you have half of your police and almost half of your fire department have an open claim, what was that about? Now once we streamline the system, all those claims have been settled or handled, we save $500,000 a year. So people complain about this or that, $500,000 a year, year after year after year. Okay, 3-4 years, $2 million. Those are the kind of things that this council's doing. When you look at, like I said earlier, the grants that this staff has done a phenomenal job on to bring in. They were talking about reserves earlier. We had reserves this last year of almost $7 million net of what we didn't spend, meaning that was left over. When you add it up, almost $14 million in reserves we've had since this council's come in, put into the bank. Now, how does that happen and how does that get done? We do conservative budgeting. We watch our dollars in there. Do we actually set up a budget that says we're going to have a $7 million profit? No. We just do our numbers conservatively, and if the economy gets better, what happens? All boats rise, our dollars go up, and we've kept our expenses down. Now, what was talking about CalPERS, even though they're a political organization, has to pay the bills. And so CalPERS is going to go ahead and raise our rates. They've told us that. So our rates right now, just I'll give you some large magnitude of dollars in here, are about $20 million a year between what we and our employees pay. The vast majority is paid for by the city. They're talking about the increase to be a 50% increase in the next 5 years. from $20 to $30 million. So when we say we'd save 6 or 7 million, you can see within 4 or 5 years, they're just taking an additional 10. And they kind of bleed you slowly. They kind of keep you alive, keep you going to, as your income comes up, they can take it. How do you solve the problem? There is no mathematical way to solve the problem with the way the structure is today. And what we've got, a mayor up in San Jose, a Democrat mayor, Chuck Reed, tried to put an initiative on the ballot, which was very simple. It basically said that we have to get rid of what's called the California rule. And here's what the California rule is. That once you're hired in a city, a municipality in California, you get a pension plan. After you've been there for whatever your 90 days or whatever it is, they can't let you go. They can never change the plan even going forward. Okay? Now, they can retroactively raise it, which is what's happened. One of the things I try to explain to people is that we don't have one police, firefighter, or a regular employee who's retiring in these plans today that was given this plan when they were hired, because they were all retroactive. They weren't hired on this. They didn't get 75% of their pay at 55 years of age. If you're a regular employee, 90% of your pay at 50 years of age if you're police or fire. That didn't exist. That wasn't there. So retroactively, they can always raise it. But in California, because of some bizarre law cases, it basically says once you give the plan, you can never change it. And you can let them go, you can outsource them, which is bizarre, but you can't change the numbers going forward. All this initiative was going to say is it would allow municipalities to negotiate with their employees to trade that away, to say, you know what, we'll give you more pay, but your pension plan has to change. And quite frankly, when you look at the dollars that can be spent, as an employer looks at of any group, you look at I have a certain number of dollars in the box to pay salaries, benefits, and all those things. If the pension plan is going to go up 50% and the box has so much money in it, where's it going to come from? The place it can come from is salary. Now, there's a lot of new employees that said, you know what? I really can't, afford to spend 15, 20% of my pay into my pension. No kidding. How many people in this room can save 20% of their salary every month and save it? It's pretty impossible to do. But maybe they would trade for, I don't have to get 75% of pay when I'm 55 years old. I'll go to 60. I'll go to 62. And therefore, they could get more take-home pay. So you could negotiate some things differently. Right now, if our employee group said to us, we want to change our plan, we would not be allowed to do it. We can't do it even if they agreed to do it in there. So Chuck Reed tried to put this initiative on the ballot. Camilla Harris, our fine Attorney General. The Attorney General has a very powerful position. They're able to write the title and summary of a ballot argument. So whenever you go up there to vote on something, it says the title and summary. And all you have to do there is say something to the effect of, police and fire will have their plans cut, and they're going to lose money, and it's all horrible. Well, if you say those things, you can't even pass the initiative. So they're able to rewrite the initiative to say what the front of it says, and that's what she did, and that's what she killed it. Hopefully that'll come back in 2 more years. They can do that, because that's the only way that this thing's going to get fixed, meaning existing employees today have to agree, I didn't say be forced to, agree to changing their benefit plan in the future for something they get today. That's what we have to change it. There's no other way to do this. No other way to fix the mass amount of dollars there. So with that, I'll take any questions from the group over there and see if I can answer them. Becker?
Well, let's assume that doesn't get passed. What's going to happen?
Well, what basically is going to happen, and you just have to look at this kind of long term, our city is a very solid financially city. We do extremely well. We work very hard. We're putting the dollars into the capital improvements, and we're saving the dollars that we need. We are going to get eaten into dollars as these pension plans go up. And so what happens to cities is they don't go bankrupt as such. They go what's called service insolvent. They quit doing services. They don't replace streets. They don't take care of the parks. They don't pay for the police officers they need. They don't pay for the fire they need. They become insolvent. We're already seeing that throughout Southern California and California, San Bernardino, Vallejo, Stockton. Before they go bankrupt, they become service insolvent. They're just not doing the job they're supposed to do. and doesn't get done. So what will happen as these amounts go up? Cities in California, and I'm talking in the next 3-4 years, more and more will be filing bankruptcy. As they file bankruptcy, and we see what's happened out of Detroit with the bankruptcy judge there, saying the pension plan is part of the bankruptcy. Now, what's happened in California so far is that the labor unions and the cities that got in trouble, who support, their members on their councils support the labor unions and are supported by the labor unions, never agreed to put the pension plans in to fix the problem. Vallejo's looking at bankruptcy again now because they never solved the problem. You can't go out there and say, I'm going to cut everybody's dollars, but some obligation called pension is untouchable. Now, is it touched and how much is it? I mean, we're talking about people that retired already. That's pretty devastating to have a pension plan go upside down. You don't want that to happen. These are people that can't make it up. This is not a 24-year-old who all of a sudden can work some other job. So as elected officials, we've got to make sure this plan is solvent. I mean, this really matters. But what will happen is you will start seeing cities that will go bankrupt. We'll start seeing cities that in order to get through it will start going into their pension plans. And at that point, the powers that be at CalPERS, the state legislature, will finally do something to fix it. But until then, there's really no other way to fix it except to continue to just shovel all your revenues in your city into this, furnace that's just burning up your money faster than you can put it in. Again, it's unsustainable to pay somebody at the levels we're paying and give those kind of increases over that amount of time and still have those dollars. Jeff?
I'll give you a little plug for the pension committee. Sorry, I'm the chair, but we meet first and third Wednesdays. But one of the things that's happening is the government accounting standards have always been weaker than financial accounting standards. In other words, you put money into stocks, they have to disclose this liabilities. Well, that's changing next fiscal year. We're on the fiscal year is the same as your property tax, July through June. So next fiscal year, that $228 million unfunded liability for Costa Mesa is going on Costa Mesa's books, and every other agency.
So what Jeff said.
So some places will be net negative.
Yes. So what's going to happen?
Costa Mesa is going to squeak in.
As the accounting rules have changed, finally it took years to get this to change to say what are your real liabilities. Our 225 million will now be put on our books. For some cities, that will put them so beyond negative. Their borrowing power will go away. All sorts of issues will happen for them, and they won't be able to keep on borrowing dollars to kind of solve their problem. That's just what's going to happen. But the problem will be fixed. Now, in Costa Mesa, we could have some rocky times, but we're never going to get to a situation of being bankrupt or something like that. We have extremely good cash flow. This council's done an extremely good job of making sure. Now, if we get a council in there that does what they did a few years ago and just give away the money, I can't help you then. I mean, it was crazy. We got to make sure we keep our costs down and operate our city properly. And I think this council comes in, again, does the same thing. We'll kind of set a way of how we operate here, and we should stay that way. But all things being equal, we'll be fine here in Costa Mesa. So again, I want to thank you for having me here today. Again, I'm proud to be your mayor, and come November, I hope to do it for another 4 years. Thank you.